Hi, this is Scott Carter, and I am in Orlando, Florida. No, I'm not visiting Mickey and Minnie Mouse at Disney World. Fortunately, my kids are old enough to be out of that stage. But I am down here talking to investors about diversifying their portfolio and just general business topics. And one of the questions that I received earlier this week was about the petrodollar and really the petro yuan. And we've got to go back in history to understand that in 1974, there was a secret deal between the United States and Saudi Arabia that Henry Kissinger crafted. And that secret deal was that if Saudi Arabia would only settle oil contracts for all contracts in the world with all other countries in US dollars, we would provide military support, and we would sell them military equipment, and we would basically be the backstop, if you will, for Saudi Arabia and the House of Saud, which was the royal family of the House of Saud. Now, we weren't aware of this deal until 2016. Can you believe that? The United States government kept this secret from the American people, and we discovered under a FOIA request in 2016 that we actually had this contract in place. And then Saudi Arabia would take their excess dollars and buy US treasuries. So what did this do? This created what we now know is the petrodollar. And the petrodollar basically established the US dollar as the world's reserve currency, because every country that wanted to buy oil, and they needed oil, had to settle in dollars, because Saudi Arabia was the big gorilla in the oil market. They still are to some extent today. And it was just a brilliant treaty. We recreated the US dollar as the dominant reserve currency in the world, just like it is today. And because the oil contracts were settled in dollars, virtually every contract was settled in dollars. So every country had to hold dollars in their banks if they wanted to buy oil or anything else on an international stage. And therefore, the US dollar was and still is the world's reserve currency. And it gives us tremendous leverage in the world markets. So why do I tell you that? Well, because now China and Russia are trying to displace the petrodollar with the petro yuan. China is trying to create the yuan to be one of the premier currencies in the world. And the way to do that, quite frankly, is to displace the petrodollar with the petro yuan. And if Russia's willing to play ball, and Venezuela's willing to play ball, and Brazil, or what we know as the BRIC nations, then it could put a lot of pressure on the US dollar. And as American people, we need to be aware of that. This isn't discussed in the news at all, which is shocking to me. But believe me, it's absolutely critical to us as investors. Because if the US dollar loses its reserve status and its dominance, then we start to hit a very significant problem in our standard of living. So sometimes earthquakes hit and we see the immediate effect and we repair the damage and we move on. But this is a glacier, and glaciers move slowly, they move significantly, they change the whole landscape of the world, and you just never see it coming because it's moving so slowly. China and Russia have been trying to displace the US dollar as the reserve currency for a long time. The way to do it is to displace the petrodollar with the petro yuan. You should be aware of this as investors. It's significant for us as Americans. I can't believe it's not getting any coverage on TV, but it's critical for us as investors to know this, and to know that if they do get a beachhead or a placeholder with the petro yuan traded on the Chinese market, the dollar will lose significance and lose buying power and continue to weaken. And if it weakens, that means that we don't buy as much, and that means we need to have assets in place that help protect us against this risk factor. So read up on the petrodollar, read up on what China and Russia are trying to do to dismantle the US dollar's hegemony in the world and its ability to keep our standard of living, because it creates the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. China is the largest importer of oil. They're going to have a larger economy than we have in 15 years. We shouldn't be asleep at the wheel as investors. We need to anticipate that. We need to make adjustments accordingly to have the right assets. Read about the petrodollar, read about the petro yuan. It's a very interesting topic. I hope this helps. Have a great day.